All right, let's move in to our last division. We have the AFC West. The Denver Broncos last year finished 8-9. I have them finishing 7-10. It is a tough schedule, and they have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. Um, you know, I just like they have a lot of 50-50 games. For example, they start off the year at Seattle, Pittsburgh, at Tampa Bay. And to me, those are all games where it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Like they could finish 9-8. They could also finish 6-11. Like I don't know if this team can win 10 games, but I do see them having the ability to finish over 500 due to the fact that Sean Payton is the coach. And I do think Bo Nix will actually have a pretty decent rookie year if they're able to establish the run. Obviously, the wide receiver room is a little bit questionable, but overall, I think this team is going to benefit the most from having a coach like Sean Payton, where the roster is not there at all, but because of the ability and pedigree that Sean Payton has, this team will vastly outperform its quality of roster like it did last year.
100%. And my thing is like, so just to get out of the way, I had them finishing 6-11. If Sean Payton wasn't in my considerations, they would have realistically topped out about 3 wins at most. So, like you're saying, Sean Payton being there is more than 50% of what I value as far as this team is concerned. And it's why that I still, despite not necessarily fully seeing the direction, still believe in what the Broncos are doing. And I believe in the rebuild because of Sean Payton, right? And that's not just me saying it as a Saints fan, right? Sean Payton deserved all the praise he got from Saints fans, and he will continue to show Broncos fans why he deserves that praise. But the bottom line is, as we've already harped on for a long time now, when it comes to pure roster, in my humble opinion, the Broncos probably have the worst roster in all of football. But that's back to why Sean Payton is such a valuable commodity and why that nonetheless this roster can still not compete, but outcompete those other bottom tier teams. So it doesn't change the fact that this team is not ready to compete this year. And, you could even say to an extent, and again, it's not, but, they're going to be getting perhaps, follow me, worse draft picks in terms of worse in terms of quality than they would probably be getting if they had a worse coach in the building right now.
Right.
But you're willing to sacrifice that when you're actually building a culture and you're actually building a winning team and a winning identity. But all that to say that me and Hunter, I guess I don't want to speak for you, but I think you agree with this. Have faith for the Broncos' future.
Yeah,
we just don't
right
know
now.
when it's gonna be like, okay, this roster really turned around, because it certainly is not today that I can say that this is
Reading a ton of dead cap. It's tough.
Yeah, well, exactly. They're still dealing with the Russ debacle, and I like to remind Broncos fans so it doesn't sound like I'm harping on all the negatives. Like you have guys that are young and getting better in the building every day too, right? Like Brandon Jones coming off a good year, Brandon Browning's coming off of a good year, Quinn Miners is coming off a good year. Like you have guys coming off of good years. You have a lot of faith in Bo Nix, but all in all, there are still a lot of holes that need to be filled on this roster, and that's all there is to it. There's certainly no way you can fathom any other reality other than this hole or this roster has holes.
It does 100%. I think maybe after next year they could be vying. After this year they could be vying for a playoff spot. I don't see them any way they make the playoffs this year.
It would need to be a pretty really productive offseason this year. I'd say for me, I view it more like 2 years down the road. If it would be next year, it's not impossible, but there'd have to be a lot done this offseason.
All right, moving in to the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them at 11-6, winning the division. They won the Super Bowl last year, and they improved their roster. So, what do you want to talk about here? Every time we get to the Chiefs, it's like, what do we want to talk about?
Let's just make it as short as we can, where Chiefs fans will not feel like that they got cheated, because I don't want to glaze them over.
That's why I find it hard, because you guys already know you're the best.
Yeah, they'll agree though. Is that Chiefs fans, we don't need to spend a lot of time on you guys. You guys know where you stand. But let's just sum it up as quickly as possible, right? Number one, funny enough, I actually did have them rounding out at 10-7. But again, as I've already practiced for the other teams, I'm splitting the divisions. I have to toss some teams a bone here and there that if I don't, they're going to finish with way less wins than I do think they're going to finish. I think the Chiefs maybe disbenefit, they kind of got the short end of the stick on that as well. Nonetheless, they still ended up winning the division. They still end up a playoff team. And third of all, the most important thing is we know it doesn't matter what record the Chiefs enter the playoffs with. It's just like the old Patriots. That does not matter. All that matters is that they're going to show up and be ready to go compete for the Lombardi and have the best quarterback on earth. Nothing else is relevant other than that. They're going to make the playoffs. It doesn't matter where they do. They could roll in with 9 wins. Those years where teams show up with 8 wins. The Chiefs could show up with 8 wins if it somehow happened to the playoffs, and I would still think they're going to go in the Super Bowl. This roster got better. They got younger. They extended in very key pieces of the team. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is that the Chiefs are completely on path to be the NFL's first three-peat team, and we could witness history this year.
I do have a little bit of concern for the tackle situation with Kingsley Suamataia and Wanya Morris. I don't know if I feel comfortable with either of them starting right away. I'm not saying it's going to be like dire, but that would be something I am a little bit concerned about. Hopefully Hollywood Brown comes back healthy like week 2, week 3. But that wide receiver room is so fast. And we saw that even if Rashee Rice is suspended and Hollywood Brown isn't back week 1, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. So I just think it's going to be very interesting to see what we see out of the Chiefs this year. If they start slow, if they get it rolling fast, I don't really know. Obviously, they got the Chris Jones extension done. So the defense is going to be just as good, if not better. I know that you traded L'Jarius Sneed, but it feels like the Chiefs are on kind of the wave where they're willing to trade players right before they not fall off, but they can get peak value for them, like the Tyreek. Well, you could trade Tyreek Hill whenever, but you know what I'm saying? They traded L'Jarius Sneed where they got peak value for him, and it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah. Well, and before we move on to the next team, because I know Chiefs fans will love to hear this, because this is maybe something they don't hear from a lot of other people yet. Not a lot of people have kind of woken up to it. But look, here's the best part if you're a Chiefs fan is that not only with the L'Jarius Sneed thing, you got him out right when he's already you have won Super Bowls with the man. You got literally the best you could have got out of him. Not only that, you didn't just move on from him. You moved Trent McDuffie over to his spot, who's playing like a top 5 corner, and you say, all right, Trent, now your role's the outside. But here's the best part, and here's the fun part, is that you have Chamari Connor, who only played in total, he moved around a lot. He played around 400 plus defensive snaps last year, but 208 at free safety, 145 at slot, 86 just in the box, kind of just a little linebacker action. He the point is you play him all over, but now he graded out last year 81 PFF. You're taking him, moving him into the slot, and now you just instantly replaced what you had from Sneed, and you're also bringing in a guy who played really good in the slot already anyways last year. So really, it's not even like anything changed at all if you're the Chiefs, and you know what I mean? You're getting compensation. You've got to love it if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, it must be nice. From 30-0 and another team, sincerely, it must be nice. Moving in to the Las Vegas Raiders, I have them at 5-12. I don't
close.
I don't like the O-line. I like Aiden O'Connell. I think starting Gardner Minshew would be a mistake. I think this defense will play hard, especially with Christian Wilkins there. But where do they get the wins, man? They can beat Carolina. I do think that the Chargers are not going to be an easy team to beat no matter what team you are. And they play them week 1. I see them getting the win versus Carolina, maybe Denver, maybe Pittsburgh, maybe Tampa Bay, maybe New Orleans, maybe Atlanta. They don't have
about that Tampa Bay one.
They don't have any easy games. And no game is easy in the NFL, but games where I'm oh, yep, they're winning 100% outside of Carolina. So it's I don't know, 5-12 seems right. 6-11 seems right. 7-10 seems like the ceiling.
No, 100%. And again, you know what? And I understand it. I do. They've been in kind of, I don't want to say purgatory, but they've been through a rough sum of years. And Raiders fans are just like we're talking about Steelers fans, right? Like they're passionate. I respect it. You're passionate. You want to be at the top. You want your respect every year. I can't knock you for that. But the reality is, those bottom lines, they're not going to they're not going to agree or they're not going to reason with what we're saying. But that's okay, because the reality is that when you have it goes back to more than anything this division. You are in a division. I think Raiders fans like to forget that you're in a division with. Forget everything else. We're not going to talk about the quarterback situation yet because I do have a lot of faith in Bo Nix, but we're going to replace Bo Nix with Sean Payton just for today. You're in a division with Sean Payton, Mahomes, and Herbert. There has to be a point where
Sean
you're going to
Payton,
say,
Andy Reid, and Jim Harbaugh.
right? Yeah, we can just make it all coaches, right? We can just we forget the mixing it up. We can just make it all coaches, and you have to say, and I'm glad you said that because now I can tie another thing I wanted to bring into the whole mix. Where I think if the Raiders even have a year that they round out close to 500, it's going to be very close to what we witnessed just from the Jets last year, like we were just talking about. Because we saw that when Antonio Pierce came and took the reins, this defense was a completely different unit. And I think that this defense plays well enough under him that they can really like win you games just with complementary offense. But it's just like we were saying about the Jets last year. The Raiders basically are just this year's version. How many games is your defense really going to play?
I would argue they have better weapons on offense, but I get what you're saying.
Well, yes, no, 100%. Let me not sell Devontae, right, and the boys and Jacoby short. But you get what I'm saying as far as the perspective of this offense is going to middle out really, really bad, very likely. And if the defense doesn't play absolutely lights out, you're not getting a win that week. And the main thing with that is there hits a point where the defense looks at the offense. They look in the mirror and they say, how much longer am I going to put everything on the line while these fuckers go give 10% and I'm out here, you know what I mean,
right,
giving my all and wrecking my body. That is objectively, it hits a point where that's what happens. And for me, calculating the Raiders wins, that's what it came down to, Hunter. Just like you, it's like, look, it's not that I don't think this team has funny enough, they have a really good number of guys where I'm like, you're picking and you're like, you can build around these guys. You have something going, you have an identity. But the quarterback situation right now is just not going to cut it in this division. And it's just that simple. Like, if you were in a different division, Raiders fans, the objective, or not the objective, but the storyline, the whole point of how I'd be evaluating the season would be way different. But when you have such a jam-loaded division of quarterbacks and great offensive minds, it affects the way that I have to evaluate you. And that's the bottom line for Raiders fans right now.
You got the worst coach in the division, and that's not shade at Antonio Pierce. It's just the reality with the legendary coaches you have in the division. And you have the worst quarterback in the division. I would argue Bo Nix is probably better than Aiden O'Connell. I mean, let's just say they're tied for third, okay? It's not a good recipe for success. You definitely have a better roster than the Broncos, though. I'll give you that. I will 100%. Give you that.
And back to like we've been saying about, a number of teams here. Raiders fans, we're not sitting here telling you that you're shit and that there's nothing you shouldn't be excited about anything. No. It's far from that. It's more like just don't go all in. Yeah, like don't go all in right now because the future is going to be where it's brightest. Yeah. You're kind of working towards that light at the end of the tunnel with your light right now, and you're going to get there. But you're kind of like halfway through right now, if that makes sense.
So what did you have the Raiders at?
I had them finishing out right around what I had them 6 and 11 is where I had them. So I had them slightly better than you, but we had them rounding out right around that same number.
All right, let's move into our last team of the AFC. We have the Los Angeles Chargers. I had them at 7 and 10. I think a lot of people are underrating them or underrating like what the Jim Harbaugh effect is. I think they're going to be really stout on offense. I think they're going to run the shit out of the ball. They have J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Kamani Vidal. Let's not forget Justin Herbert plays for the Chargers, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Now, their skill position is atrocious. They have Ladd McConkey and Josh Palmer. So, not to talk shit on Ladd, and it's nothing like that. It's just
you just don't think he's going to get to his best his first year. Like I think that's fair. Like,
think about
you don't think he's going to come in and be an all pro. Like
you have your number one corner is going to be guarding Josh Palmer or Ladd McConkey. Like if Sauce Gardner is guarding Ladd McConkey, or if Trent McDuffie is guarding Ladd McConkey, like he's not seeing the ball that day. So I guess my thing is they're going to run the shit out of the ball. They're going to be one of the most physical and aggressive teams in the league. They have Greg Roman on offense. The run offense is going to be really nice. They have Joe Alt. They have Rashawn Slater. Their O-line is pretty decent. They retained Khalil Mack. They have Joey Bosa. They have Derwin James. Like, they have pieces on defense. It was just so badly mismanaged by Brandon Staley. The Chargers roster has always been there. It has always been pretty good. It has been the coaching, and that is what they replaced. Obviously, they got rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, so they have to work on, the pass game. But overall, this team is going to be much better and much more stable than it was last year.
No, 1000%, 1000%. And I think the biggest thing that I want to say is because you got my gears thinking with this one. This is really, if I was a Chargers fan, this is what I would want to take away from this season. Because to your point, is this team going to be a playoff team? Likely not. But it's all about, just like we were just saying with the Raiders, it goes hand in hand. It's about building upon the identity and getting better this year. But I think the biggest thing, if you're a Chargers fan, that would really say, if I was a Chargers fan, I'd say we won this season if this could happen. You know what this is for this team, Hunter? This is having Justin Herbert, despite the skill position just not being where you want them to be, going out and still having a really productive year. Because if he can do that and keep more than anything, keep the turnovers low, you're going to say to yourself as a Chargers fan after this year, no, yeah, like, not that he's already a franchise guy. Like, there's no doubt about that. Justin Herbert's a franchise guy. I would be losing my mind to say he's not a franchise guy. But on top of being a franchise guy, you can look and say, oh man, despite almost any circumstance, like, I really believe Herbert can carry us to the promised land, even if there's holes on this roster. And that's what I think, if you're a Chargers fan, you really want to leave this season with that being your number one takeaway. Like, despite all of the flaws on this offense, if Jay Herbert is still playing that Jay Herbo, as we like to say, that Jay Herbo football, all of a sudden there already was optimism. There's going to be a bundle of optimism if you're a Chargers fan, if that's what happens this year.
Well, I think a big thing too with Justin Herbert is it's going to be, okay, Justin, go get the first down from 3rd and 4, not 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, right? Like, they're going to run the shit out of the ball. So I think another thing too is you have to look at it in a way of, like, Justin Herbert is not going to be asked to do everything. He's not. So I'm excited for what the Chargers can be. I think they're going to be one of the quicker turnarounds in the NFL from a team that was on a downward trajectory, because every year was supposed to be the Chargers' year until it wasn't, because Staley got 63 put up on him by an interim head coach who's now a head coach. And so I don't know. I mean,
we got to just start calling him the We got to start calling him the South California war criminal. Yeah. We're being a little too nice to the man. That man gave at least 10,000 Chargers fans PTSD for the rest of their life. He's a criminal.
We should have known from the yoga pose on the field
that there was major red flags being thrown out that day, and we didn't pick up on them.
What did you have the record as, Dobbs?
I had Chargers rounding out. Sorry, Chargers fans, but you know what? You actually are probably one of the better teams that was in a rebuilding year. I have them 7-10.
7-10, same as me.
Three minds think alike, though. Yeah, you know what? We ended up same thought.